Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the School District of Springfield Township Board of School Directors, regular board meeting, June 20th, 2017. We had an executive session prior to this meeting at 6:30 p.m. to discuss a personnel matter. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading of the mission statement. The mission of the School District of Springfield Township is to educate and develop all students as learners and citizens who are high-achieving, resilient, and responsible in a changing global community. Roll call, Mr. King.
Mr. Chapman. Here. Mr. Sales. Mr. Lapis. Here. Ms. Nelson. Mr. Ray. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratuski. Mr. Taylor. Ms. Lipinski.
Announcements. The board, at its discretion, may videotape all or any portion of public board meetings, subject to the limitations set forth in Policy 006.2, broadcasting of meetings. Board meetings will be broadcast on Friday afternoon following the board meeting. Are there any public comments on agenda items? Okay. Approval of minutes. May 15th, 2017, regular meeting, board minutes are. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments? Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman. Mr. Lapidus. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratuski. Mr. Taylor. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Approval of treasurer's report. Treasurer's report. Is that a one or an aye? It's an aye, right? Treasurer's report, aye. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments? Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman. Mr. Lapidus. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratuski. Mr. Taylor. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Reports and information, recognitions, retirees, and middle school acting principal.
Thank you, Mrs. Lipinski. So good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out. This is really a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to recognize and to thank a number of our staff members who will be celebrating retirement very, very shortly. Yesterday, as everyone is aware, was our last student day in the district. Some of our returning staff members are attending professional learning academies this week and throughout the summer. But for many of the folks who are in the audience, this is their last opportunity to come before our board members as employees of Springfield Township School System. And we have employees who have been with us for only a few years, but we also have employees who've been with us for as many as 35 years in the district. So we want to take the opportunity to recognize every single person individually, to thank those of you who are here with us this evening for your dedicated service to our students and to the families of Springfield Township. So before we get started with the retirees, and I'm going to ask the principals to assist me with that, I do want to take an opportunity to recognize Pauline Gagliardi, who has served for the past several months as principal of Springfield Township Middle School. Unfortunately, she's had to be the second interim principal that we've had to hire there during Ms. Patterson's leave of absence. But I want to commend Mrs. Gagliardi for coming in after the start of the school year, which is not an easy thing to do, when another interim principal had already been in place in the position and unfortunately had to leave. Pauline stepped in. She immediately set about to learn about the staff members, the students, get to know the families, and so forth, so that she could fill in, and fill in she certainly did, along with Mr. Thomas, as the leadership of Springfield Township Middle School. Pauline, unfortunately, could not make it here this evening. She has international relatives actually coming in from out of town, and she told me she had to go to the airport to pick them up. But I will be meeting with her again tomorrow. We already spoke today. She's very grateful for the opportunity that she had to serve the students students of Springfield Township. She thought it was a wonderful opportunity, and she can't believe how blessed she was, she told me, to have had the opportunity to get to know so many of our families and our staff members. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Pauline for all of her service during these past several months. So now we're going to move on to the best part of the evening. It's not my budget presentation. I know you thought that's what it was, but it's not. It's our opportunity to recognize our retirees. So the first person I'm going to call up is Kathy Van Voren, principal of Enfield Elementary.
Good evening, board members, community members, teachers. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's exciting that we have so many of us going and sad at the same time, but we're excited for everyone to start on their new adventures. So we have 5 people that are retiring from Enfield Elementary School. So I am going to go down through and tell you a little bit about each one. So the first one is for Lori Chamberlain. Lori Chamberlain has retired at the end of last school year after being with our district for 10 years. She always had amazing patience and love for the special education students in her care. Lori would not only assist the students, but worked with their families in a kind, quiet, and respectful way. Her smile and laugh added much joy to any room. She was truly a genuine person for the care of others, and she was definitely missed this year. So I don't see Lori out in the audience this evening, but we still wanted to recognize her just the same. The next person we are honoring tonight is Miss Peg McEwen. Peg has been with the school district of Springfield Township for 20 years. In those 20 years, she's held the position of a reading specialist, as well as a 3rd grade teacher, and most presently, our kindergarten teacher. Peg has been an incredible support to all of the teachers and staff over the course of her career. She has so much passion for teaching children and has truly dedicated her life to them. Peg is also honest, kind, trustworthy, and hardworking. She's always the last teacher to leave the school for the day and the one who would check in with her team members to see if they needed anything, and myself included this year, because Peg was always after school when I was after school, and I did enjoy those times. Most importantly, Peg's ability to blend firmness with playfulness in her classroom is evident. It is what we all aspire to do as teachers. Her team has said they will be lost without her. Peg, your Enfield family wants to wish you the best of luck moving forward and hopes you come back to volunteer soon. Come on up, Peg. Now get your volunteer clearances, Peg. I had to put a word in. All right. Next in line is Mrs. Joyce Huff. Joyce Huff has dedicated 27 years to our district. Within her tenure, she has served most recently as our reading specialist and also as a 1st grade and kindergarten teacher as well. Joyce is the definition of a teacher. She blends firmness with kindness effortlessly. She is very welcoming and full of energy and excitement each and every day. Joyce has been a great help to our school over the years in creating effective messages and targeted instruction. And of course, she could go into business generating the perfect bulletin board for the students and teachers alike. We have told her that's what she's going to be doing in her retirement. We're thankful for all of her support and guidance over the years with the students, teachers, and staff every day. Personally, we will all miss her very recognizable laugh and color-coded schedule systems and charts, and her contagious enthusiasm for learning. We wish her luck and much happiness in her retirement. Come on up, Joyce. It's her fan club. Our next candidate is Maureen Burke. I do not see her in the audience, but just the same, we'd like to recognize her. Maureen Burke has been serving our district for the past 24 years. She has held positions as an instructor for English language learners most recently. She has also been a third grade teacher and reading specialist in the district. Most of all, Maureen has always been known as being a strong advocate for all of her students. I appreciate that Maureen is not only an incredibly adept at teaching our ELL population through her blend of experience and knowledge, but she is also immeasurably caring and kind. It is wonderful how she brings creative projects to her classroom and is always trying to immerse the students in various activities. Students, colleagues, and families will miss her involvement and support. We wish her the very best of luck in her future endeavors. And last but not least, Diane Sorella. Diane has worked here as an instructional assistant for 15 years. Her pleasant and thoughtful demeanor with the students she serves is a wonderful thing to watch. Diane was always willing to help out in any capacity. She's truly a professional, blending high expectations of herself and her support with students with patience, generosity, and most of all, kindness. She will be greatly missed here at Enfield.
Thank you, Mrs. Van Voren, and to all of the staff members who are leaving Enfield. Thank you again for everything that you've done for our children there. And now I'd like to call up Miss Megan Markle, representing Erdenheim. I'm assuming Mr. McLaurin is at class this evening.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Good evening, school board, and good evening, everybody. My name is Megan Markle. I'm the assistant principal at Erdenheim. I had the pleasure of starting December 23rd. So unfortunately, my time with our retirees has been short, but it definitely has been very memorable for me. We are honoring 6 retirees. Kathy spoke of Miss Burke, who also worked at Erdenheim as our English language learner teacher. So we wanted to honor her as well. Before I want to start, we had a chance at our closing assembly on Monday where we brought all the kids together and all the staff members, and we recognized these 6 amazing ladies. And we had a really good time, and I know I could feel how special it was for the students to be able to honor you guys, and so I really do hope you felt that specialness, and you'll take that. We also gave all of the retirees a picture of Erdenheim, and all the staff members signed it, so we just want them to always remember Erdenheim, and we know you guys will come back and visit. But I'd like to take this time to honor each one of you right now. Unfortunately, Cindy Connolly, she is not here right now, but she has worked with our district for 23 years. She's currently our reading, she was a reading specialist, she was a special ed teacher, and she was also our RTI coordinator. And so she spent countless hours looking at data, collecting data, making sure our students had what they needed. So we really appreciate it. So if we can give Cindy a round of applause. Floss Egan was our guidance counselor, and she served our district for 22 years, which is amazing. And that she was also a very friendly face to see, and the kids had really special bonds with her. And we're gonna miss her, but we want to thank Floss for her service here to our district as well. So we can give Floss a round of applause. And our next retiree is Diane McGrath, and she's here. So I'm gonna have you come up and stand next to me. So Diane, she has served our district for 18 years. She's currently a 3rd grade teacher, but what other grades have you taught? 3rd. Just You found your home, and there it was, 3rd grade. So she's served hundreds and hundreds of students. And what I will remember fondly about you, Diane, is just your positive energy. You always have a smile on your face. You're always such a good hard worker, but also a team player, and we're very, very fortunate. But also you must know about Diane is that she was our our 5K coordinator. She keeps us healthy. That every couple months she'd say, okay, it's time for a run, and she'd send an email out, and so staff members would get together. We did a pie run, we did gingerbread run, and more recently, which I think was the most favorite one, it was the one in June where they ran a mile down to the ice cream store and had ice cream. And then they walked back. So it was great. So, Doctor, I know. So I think we got to keep that going. We got to find somebody. So we hope you can come back. So they're already planning it, right? And you've started that. So we want to thank you for all your years of service and everything, and we wish you best of luck on this awesome chapter. Marcy Klugman, come on up. So as Dr. Hacker mentioned, we have teachers here who have served the district for 35 years, and Marcy is one of those teachers. For 35 years, she has served our district tirelessly. And I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, but I'm going to turn it over to you. When I first learned about Springfield Township, I heard about this awesome music department. And you know, it was one of the things that stood out is that we have such a great, strong music department. And then I finally got to meet the woman who was really behind all of it. And so through Marcy's leadership, she's won countless awards for the district and also really just built the program. I know when I've talked to the kids and the kids talk about their fond memories, it's of band and it's of music. And so we really are thankful for everything that you've done for our district. And we do wish you all the best of luck. But you need to come back and come and help us with our performances and all of the other good things. But thank you for your leadership as well. Congrats. And last, but certainly not least, Mrs. Deb Pop DePietro. Come on up. So Deb has served our district for 20 years, and she's our speech language therapist, and she's leaving a big hole. We have big shoes that we need to fill for Deb. And Deb, I think of you, and we've spent a lot of time together this year in a lot of meetings. And I think something that always stood out to me was just your calming presence. And I think that's what students always really took to you, is that your calming demeanor, and they always knew they had somebody there that was there to support them. And you've supported hundreds and hundreds of students as well as our other retirees. So we wish you all the best of luck in your next chapter, but please come back and visit. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Megan. I'd like at this time to call up Dr. Rittenhouse, because I'll do the honors for the two people who were not able to be here at the middle school. But Dr. Ritt, I'm going to ask you to come up first.
Hello, everybody. It is my distinct pleasure to honor two staff members from Springfield Township High School. And they were honored at graduation, our commencement exercises, and traditionally, as a principal, I've asked them to stand up and be acknowledged. They got a huge round of applause, from the crowd at graduation. First is Mary Soboleski. She's not with us this evening. She was the director of guidance at St. Basil's Academy before some wise HR director stole her 27 years ago to be a guidance counselor here at the high school. I spoke to Mary yesterday. We estimated she's guided approximately 5,000 students here at the high school, which is crazy. And her highlights include working with great kids and great faculties, teaching grad students when she was a professor in school counseling at Gwinnett Mercy College, working with grad school interns when they do the practicum of school counseling at Springfield, and she'll be sorely missed. She did a great job here, Mary Soboleski, so thank you. Miss Gahab Ann is here this evening, and she has worked 20 years here in the district as a wonderful teacher and advocate in our social emotional program and special ed program. Before that, 14 years at the Montgomery County IU, I believe, at the IU. Some of Ann's highlights, working with fantastic students, and we do have fantastic students here. and the people who support them, which is all of us. It shows how nice you are. You always thank other people. Laughing with staff in the main office and guidance area. I'm in my 4th year, and Ann and I were next to each other for 3 years, and she's downstairs in a different classroom this year. She is an outstanding singer. She's a great voice. She sang at James Taylor Day and played the tambourine, if I recall, at Diversity Day. And her plans to work out, play guitar, sing, bike a lot, go to the shore as much as possible, hang out with friends and family, march for social justice and peace, soak up the sunshine of my life, of your life. And she's the first in here and the last to leave. She turns her light out at the end of the day and scares me sometimes when I walk downstairs coming out at 5 o'clock. Staff says she's caring, cool, valuable person, advocates always for her students, will be sorely missed, very positive, and at graduation easily, with both Mary and Ann, probably 15, 20 graduates ranging from the age of 19 up to 35, asked for where Miss Gahab was to give her a big hug. So Ann Gahab, please.
Thank you, Dr. Rittenhouse. So let me take this opportunity to recognize the folks from the middle school who couldn't be here this evening. First of all, Rosemarie, or as she is really well known to all of us, Ro Becker, was our library media specialist, and she had 24 years in the district. And we were able to honor Ro at a retirement celebration that the middle school folks had for her. She has been a treasure in the library. She is the originator of the maker spaces in this district. She's the one who started it all over at the middle school. She had the foresight and the vision to understand what was coming along and what was at the forefront of technological practices in schools. And she created the space herself along with the principal in the middle school library. So that kind of summarizes who Ro is. She's always looking ahead and trying to bring the very best practices back to the staff and to the children. So we'll, of course, miss Ro. Second is Brian Turner, who, believe it or not, was just about at the top of the heap in terms of number of years in our school district, 35 years with Marcy. I'm not sure who started first, but you guys clearly were at the top. And Brian was our technology education teacher also over at the middle school. I've never met anyone with a more calm demeanor. Nothing seems to rattle Brian. He's always calm, cool, and collected and has a big smile on his face. He's appreciative for every single day, and he transmits that to the kids who come in. He's an expert on technology practices, and like I was saying about Ro, he always seemed to find something new and different that he could incorporate in his specialized area. So again, we want to thank Brian and wish him well on his journey as well. There's another individual from the middle school that I'd like to recognize, Kathleen Harkins. Kathleen is a food service worker who has spent 10 years working in the cafeteria and diligently toiling away. That's not an easy position, and we all know what those middle school kids can be like. They can't figure out from one day to the next whether it's French fries they want, grilled cheese, or steak sandwich, or whatever. And she was always very, very patient with the kids, helped to provide a nutritious environment and a fun-loving environment as well. Always a friendly face to all of the children. So we just want to take this opportunity to recognize Kathleen, Ro, and Brian from the middle school. And finally, I also want to recognize 3 other individuals who really have really critical jobs here in the school district, and they are 3 of our bus drivers. One of them, Karen Horvath, unfortunately, has been ill for some time. Karen spent 5.5 years working in our district, and she actually did 2 different tours where she worked in the district, took some time off for some personal reasons, and came back to the district. She had daughters go through our district, and she had triplets who graduated from our high school this year, the Bowles triplets. And Karen was always, as the result of her connections to Springfield Township, a very, very devoted member of our staff down at the bus garage. So we want to recognize
her for her efforts. We also have 2 other bus drivers, Jimmy Hunter, who, believe it or not, was a star baseball player in his youth and decided he really wanted to spend time with children, and so he became a school bus driver. And he worked for us in the district also for about 8 years, and he also did 2 tours. He took some time off to go do something else. He has now decided that he would like to go back and play with the kids and the grandkids and do some stuff with them, but we want to thank him for his contributions as well. So that's Jimmy Hunter. And then finally, Mr. Keith Wumbush, who currently is working as a car salesman for Faulkner Chevrolet. But Keith worked for us for 7 years and also loved driving his bus. And just like the other 2 people that I mentioned, they really are the ones who are responsible as we bring our students in for the day with setting the tone for what that day is going to be like for the children. So we want to take this opportunity to really recognize the importance of our school bus drivers who day in, day out create an environment for our children that sets the day for them when they come in, and also help set the day for them when they go home to the parents as well. So we want to take this opportunity to thank them. And to all of our retirees, we're so happy that you could come out with your families this evening and be here with us to enjoy this well-deserved recognition. And I just want to wish every single one of you more time with your families to soak up the sun, to do whatever it is you haven't had time to do over the past however many years. And please stay in good health so you can enjoy it all. And thanks again for everything. So at this point, you all are certainly welcome to stay. But if you want to get started on that retirement a little bit early, you're welcome to go ahead and do that too. Yes. Board members would like to also
Congratulations.
just greet all of you.
Okay, now we do have a policy committee report. Mr. James Taylor.
Good evening. We did have our policy committee meeting, and what we did is we reviewed 5 of our policies, and they do appear on the agenda tonight as items number 12 through 16.
So I just wanted to ask, it does say first reading, so could you just clarify what that means?
So the policy that is being presented this evening is a brand new policy, naloxone policy number 823. The reason it is a first reading, and the same is true with policy 626 in finances, is because these are brand new policies, and we are required to go through 2 readings of these policies to provide opportunities for public input and comment on these policies prior to their final approval by the board. So this evening is what's termed a first reading of those policies, and then they will be subject to board approval again at our first meeting in August. So I just want to thank you for asking about that. And just so everyone is aware, naloxone is an antidote to opioid substance abuse, and it is injectable and can be done by anyone who is trained to administer the injection. It is being used by nearly every school district in Montgomery County, many other districts across the state, because of the rising instances that we have seen in opioid overdosing by a number of members of the community in the county. The police also carry naloxone, and they, as well as the district attorney attorney have requested that all school districts carry naloxone as well, which we will do in our nurse's office after the approval of the policy. The finances policy that I referred to, these are fiscally required regulations that are coming to us from the federal level as well as the state level that we are obligated to implement, and most of them cover procurement, purchasing, and other areas of our financial matters.
Okay, next we will have the final budget presentation, Dr. Nancy Hacker.
Getting my exercise tonight. Okay, and in the interest of time, I'll try to go through this quickly, since I would guess that just about 98% of you in the audience are familiar with this stuff, and probably even some of the board members as well. So as you all are very well aware, our budget represents a number of interests on behalf of the school district, and it is really, as I'm fond of saying, a combination of wants and needs and a balance between what we view as priorities and what all of our constituents view as priorities as well. So our approach to budget preparation really is to maintain and to improve our existing programs within the district, whether they're academic or our complementary extracurricular activities and clubs. We want to ensure that we hire and retain the best staff possible. And we also want to ensure that we have fiscal accountability in terms of our budgeting practices throughout the entire school year so that we can really help to focus on ways of saving money. The budget process is a continuous cycle that goes on endlessly. It never stops. We begin in the school year as early as October, looking at our school building budgets and our department budgets and trying to figure out what was it that we really needed in the previous year. We do a historical look back to see what was it that we needed and what is it perhaps that either we need more of or that we can dispense with in the coming year. Keep in mind, we always begin budgeting in October for the following fiscal year, which begins July 1st. And by doing this historical look back, we have a very accurate way of determining what expenses should be based on what they have been over the past several years. However, there are always new needs that may arise. One of these needs, as you'll see as we get to the end of the presentation, is a need for new staffing. That may be due to increased enrollments. It may be due to new needs in the area of special education or other specialized areas, or as you've just seen, we have to replace retirees. So we plan for staffing, and while all of this is going on, we also look at where is our revenue coming from. What can we guesstimate will be the intake in terms of property taxes? What will the state be giving us to cover our basic education subsidy? And what will we be getting from the federal government? And as you'll see, unfortunately in Springfield Township, the over-reliance on property taxes is really what we have to fund the lion's share of our budgeting. Once we get into the spring and we begin to have all of that information, we further try to refine the budget, really hone in on more accurate figures, and that's when Mr. King and myself usually try to meet with our administrators and see whether or not it's possible for them to make any cuts in their budgets, particularly if we are higher than what we believe we need to be in order to have a fiscally sound budget. So here's where we were just a short few months ago in January of 2017. The Pennsylvania Act 1 index, which gives us a limit on the amount of the tax increase that we can have from one year to the next, was our goal. We always try to stay either below index or at index, even though we are allowed to go higher for certain costs, such as the increasing costs of PSERS contributions in the retirement fund or special education areas. We try not to do that out of deference to our taxpayers. We try to stay at index or below. What we noticed this year was that would have enabled us to have increased the amount that we were asking taxpayers to pay by $1 million in the budget, the difference between expenditures and revenue.
However, at the time in January, we were way above that. We were $1.377 million over that amount, and therefore we were at 5.93% in terms of the tax increase. So we had a lot of work to do in order to shave down that nearly 6% tax increase to get to the Pennsylvania Act 1 index. We had to cut $1.377 million from the budget, which is not an easy task. These are changes over the last few years. This is the comparison of the total budget over a 6-year period of time. And as you can see, 6 years ago in the 2012-2013 school year, which actually was budgeted for during the 2011-2012 school year, we were at about $47.5 million in terms of the budget. And where we are today, as you can see, is at this number, almost $56 million. So costs have significantly increased by about $8 million over that period of time. When you think about it, it's a little bit over $1 million per year. When you think about the size of the budget, we're talking about between $50 and $55 million. $1 million in those terms doesn't really seem so high in terms of maintaining leveled costs over time. This gives you an indicator of where the money comes from, and as you can see, again, looking back over the same 6 years, on the left, you'll see the first graph here, all of these colored areas. This is the contribution we get from the state, and as you have seen, even though we keep hearing about the decreasing budget at the state level, our budget, the amount of money that we've gotten from the state, has increased by about $3 million over those 6 years. You figure about $500,000 each of those years, which is a nice increase. However, again, when you're talking about overall a $55 million budget, a $500,000 increase each year over the previous year is not really so significant after all. So unfortunately, we don't get a significant portion of our budget from the state or, as you can see here, from the federal government. And I'm going to show you in an instant where those funds are allocated from the federal dollars that we get. But this year, it's less than $500,000 in total that is contributed by the feds to our budget. So the lion's share has to come from somewhere. And if you take a look at this figure and remember back what I said earlier, that over 6 years, the budget had increased from $47.5 million to $55. Actually, the contribution through property taxes over all 6 years has actually increased from about $41 million to a little over $45. It's only about $4 million, and it's not the $7 million that we saw in the previous slide. So that's kind of the good news. And what this shows you, if you look at these bar graphs, we've maintained a fairly level and steady amount of increases that are not too significant over the past 6 years. We know taxes are a burden to community members and residents. We're very mindful of that. While our costs continue to increase, we still try to maintain as level an increase in property taxes as possible. And this shows you where all of our revenue comes from. Here again is our total revenue figure. Our state revenue, which is about 18% of our budget, most of it coming from that basic education subsidy, some of it special ed, some of it transportation. PSERS contributes about $4.1 million towards the retirements that we talked about. And then, of course, we get gambling funds that go towards the homestead rebates that taxpayers in the community get, which average about $350 per household. Federal government, as you can see, is that less than $500,000 figure. Most of that goes to our titled monies, which are specialized funding areas, and our access reimbursement for special education. And then finally, 81% of our budget, and believe it or not, as high as that figure is, it's actually a slight decrease from last year. This year, it's 81% of our budget. Last year, it was 82% of our budget. Most of it does come from local taxes, although we do get some money from delinquent taxes and the interest on those taxes and the earned income tax as well. So this really shows where the revenue is spent. I know it's a little hard to see the chart, but if you take a look at this, the blue area here, 25 million, and the red area, 14, are on salary and benefits. This area is salary, this area is benefits, and as you can see, that's really the lion's share of our budget. All of these other slices are for everything else that we do and pay for in the district. That includes maintenance of our buildings and our fields. It includes all of our supplies for our students, including textbooks, all of the equipment that we spend money on, our professional services, such as our attorneys, our accountants, our auditors, our debt service, which is this larger number over here, the $8.9 million. So as you can see, all of the other areas of the school district really do not take up a significant portion of the budget. Why is that? We're a human capital business. We thrive, we function, we operate because of the staff members that we have. The main thing that we provide to students is the dedication and commitment you just saw with our retirees, the influence of all of the teachers, the social workers, guidance counselors, nurses, administrators, bus drivers, food service workers, and so forth, who basically make up the individuals who work with our children every day. It's hard to see these figures, but if you take a look at the red and the black, you'll see areas of increase, which are in the black, and you'll see areas of decrease from year to year in the red. And what this shows you, remember I spoke about our fiscal responsibility, our efforts to really retain control over finances and reduce category spending. There are some areas where it's challenging to do that, such as staff member salaries, particularly if we need more staff, that area goes up. Benefits, which we can't necessarily control because we get those figures from the benefits companies who provide those benefits. But in all of these other areas, you'll see a lot of red. And the reason is we do very carefully try to contain costs in those areas. So everywhere where you see red, including the percentage of the budget in this last column, that shows that every year that amount has decreased in the budget. And so we're very, very careful, even 6 years after this first slide of the budget year of 13-14, trying to maintain our costs and keep costs down and continually reduce those costs. So in this year's budget, where is the money going? As you can see, we have our total expenses and our total revenue, and the difference there, we have a number of capital projects. Every year, it's critical for us to maintain our facilities for the safety of not only the visitors on site, but of course our students and our staff. So along with Mr. Thorne and Mr. King and the property committee of the board, we determine during the summer months and throughout the rest of the school year, what are the capital projects we need to work on? What are the areas that need attention from us and need renovation or fixing? This year, we're working on a capital project in the high school stadium, replacing the track, which has been worn down significantly and has been dangerous for our track kids, as well as artificial turf in the stadium. The $2 million price tag for that project was absorbed in our budget this year. We did not take out additional debt to pay for that. PSERS offset is money we put towards our PSERS bill from the state, which continues to increase. Right now, approximately over 32% of all of the salaries goes towards payment of the PSERS debt at the state level. It's a very significant amount. And these are some of our major initiatives in the district. We continue to provide Chromebooks for all of our students in all of our grade levels from 3rd grade on up. We continue to replenish our athletic equipment, which often gets worn down because of the number of students that we're proud to say keep increasing each year in terms of participation in sports and extracurriculars. Bus replacement, we've made a commitment every single year to allocate $500,000 to replacement of aging buses in our bus fleet so our children can travel to and from school safely. When we have enrollments increasing, as we will have next year, and we need to provide new classrooms for children, we also have to buy supplies and equipment, not only textbooks for the children, but also furniture for those new classrooms. So we have allocations in here for new classroom supplies and equipment, and several new staff members that we're bringing on board. Because of increased class sizes now moving into Erdenheim, we'll have a new second grade teaching position. We have a new teacher that we have basically a placeholder for in case registrations increase in kindergarten over the summer. Currently, we're about 185 heading into the summer. Typically, we have about 20 to 25 additional children who've been coming in over the summer months. So depending upon what those numbers are, we may need to add a new teacher at Enfield as well to lower class size for the kindergartners or first graders, and we've put that into the budget. We're hiring a psychologist position, which will be full-time, but we're adding on actually 0.4 to what's in the budget currently, as well as a 0.4 of a social worker. We needed increased social work connections with our families in the district because of a growing number of needs in our families. And finally, transportation has been an issue for a long time. We've added a transportation supervisor to assist Wayne. And Wayne, as many of you know, Wayne Johnston has been in the district for many, many years. It's, I believe, over 35 years himself. He's at a conference in Harrisburg. He is the executive director of the State Organization for Transportation. I'm going to be joining him up there tomorrow. And we're looking towards the future. Not only do we need additional assistance down in the bus garage, but we also are looking towards the future in terms of a transition between Wayne and someone else for down the road. And then finally, this kind of gives you a snapshot of where our increases have been in terms of the tax increase. It says millage rate. It's actually the tax increases. And as you can see, even though I don't list the Act 1 index, every single one of those years from 2012 through this current projected budget, we are under the Act 1 index. If you remember back to the first slide that I showed you, or one of the first slides, I said that this year the Act 1 index is 2.5%. Remember where we were in January? I believe I said it was 5.73%. We've brought it down to 2.29%. So thank you to all the administrators who worked really hard to try to shave off your budgets without sacrificing the most important things that our children need here in the district. So as I said, we try to keep our tax increases fairly level and steady. If we went to zero, unfortunately, with the increasing costs and needs that we have, it would probably signal a much larger jump in a tax increase the year after that. So good budgetary practice means you try to keep your increases, if you have them, fairly consistent and fairly level so that there's never a significant difference from one year to the next. And as you can see, that's the philosophy that we've tried to apply. So this shows what this means for the average taxpayer. Our monthly increase is just under $10, a little over $9. The highest was in 2007, 2008, when it was a $20 per month increase. It shows what that means. And as you can see, over the last 5 years, we're very happy to say we've averaged under 2% in our tax increases. And over the previous 9 years, before those 5 years, the average increase was well over 4%. So fortunately, in the past 5 years, partially is the responsibility of the good fiscal accounting work from Mr. King, as well as the help from our administrative team in understanding their obligations, we've really been able to keep those increases down. So we're very proud of that. Board members, any questions? Well, thank you all very much for your attention. Thank you. I know many of you have heard this before, but we do appreciate it. Thank you.
As always, Dr. Hacker, thank you for a very good presentation. You make it so easy for us all to understand, and I did serve on the Finance Committee for a few years, and I know it's really not that easy, so I appreciate it. So this evening, we have quite an extensive agenda of motions that we need to vote on. Many of these things are pretty standard motions that we vote on at the end of the year. We have several board members who are not with us this evening and several who have joined us even though they are under the weather, and I thank you for that. So what we're going to do this evening is we are going to combine many of our motions into one single motion, pulling out just a few to have separate votes on. So for agenda items number 3 through 25, except for motions 18 and 24, we are going to vote on all of those at the same time. I do want to note that all of these motions in full are listed on our agenda this evening and are also posted on the website along with any attachments and documentations that go along with those motions. If anyone would like to see what they are, you can find that information on our website. So I am going to ask for a motion for agenda items 3 through 25, except for agenda items 18 and agenda item 24. Is there a second? Are there any questions or comments on motions 3 through 25, except for motion 18 and 24? Okay, Mr. King.
Mr. Lapidus. Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Teratuski. Mr. Taylor. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And now we will circle back to motion number 1. Election of Assistant Superintendent, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the motion to enter into a contract with Dr. Carl Atkinson to serve as the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction for the term of August 18th, 2017 through August 17th, 2021. Is there a motion? Second? Any questions or comments? Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman. Mr. Lapidus. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Teratuski. Mr. Taylor. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Dr. Atkinson. Welcome aboard again. Would you kindly step forward along with your wife, Katie, and Judge Haas?
So now we will have the swearing in of the Assistant Superintendent by the Honorable Judge Richard P. Haas.
Please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, defend, and obey
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Good luck.
Okay, next we will go to number 2, personnel attachment, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the following personnel as presented in the attachment: administrative personnel, confidential personnel, certificated personnel, support personnel, temporary personnel, extended school year program personnel, extra pay for extra responsibilities, conference workshop attendance. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Any questions or comments?
I'm unfortunately going to vote no for this motion, not because of anything except my concern about one of the coaching appointments.
Anyone else? Okay. Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman? Aye. Mr. Lapidus? No. Ms. Sarsfield? Aye. Dr. Terratuski? Aye. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Okay. And now we are going to skip down to number 18, which is the 2017-2018 budget items recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the attached budget resolutions for the following 2017-2018 budget items, attachment BBB. A, the 2017-2018 school year expenditure budget in the amount of $59,458,586, requiring a tax rate of 32.3913 mils, representing an increase of 0.7275, I'm sorry, I'm going to say that again, $0.7275 mils, or an increase, is that correct? It's mils. Mils, okay. Sorry. I was right before, okay. Increase of 2.298% over the current tax rate. B, the resolution for the homestead farmstead exclusion as required by Special Section Act 1 of 2006 in order for taxpayers to receive taxpayer relief funds. 5,321 households will receive a reduction in the amount of $350 from their tax bills. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay. Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman? Mr. Lapidus? Aye. Ms. Sarsfield? Aye. Dr. Terratuski? Aye. Mr. Taylor? Aye. Ms. Lipinski?
Aye. Now we will finish up with number 24, collective bargaining agreement, recommended motion. The Board of School Directors approves the motion to ratify a collective bargaining agreement between the School District of Springfield Township and the Springfield Township Education Association effective July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Second. Any questions or comments?
I'd like to just make a comment. First of all, I want to extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to the board's negotiations team, which included Gretchen, Kat, Walter, and John. My thanks to each of you for your trust and confidence in myself, Ken, and Emily, and our ability to what has now been a successful conclusion to the collective bargaining and negotiation sessions that took place. And I also want to thank the associations team, Renee Bowles, Kristen Ward, Celeste Stepney, Tom Hawley, and Scott Armington, who negotiated on behalf of STEA. We began negotiating in early January. We kept to a very strict schedule of negotiations on every aspect of their contract, including not only salary, but also all types of benefits. There were significant givebacks on the part of the association, and I commend them for that, including not only benefits, but also movement across the guide. And they also, because of their early retirement incentive, were able to really hold the line in terms of the salaries that they were asking for. So I want to thank them for those sacrifices. And one of the highlights that I want to mention that in return we were able to give them, which is a significant win for our students, we added a large number of extra pay positions to the contract, which will enable many of our students now to participate in many more after-school clubs and activities. So we're very, very happy that that was a give back fact that we were able to accomplish. And you may remember several months ago, some of the students came before the board, and the one club in particular they were asking for, Odyssey of the Mind, is one of the ones that we approved as a new extra pay position. So we will have that available for students next year.
Mr. King?
Mr. Chapman. Mr. Lapidus. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Teratuski. Mr. Taylor. Ms. Lipinski.
Aye. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Okay. Future meeting dates, interim board meeting, Tuesday, August 1st, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the Freeze Memorial Lobby. School board meeting, Tuesday, August 15th, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the Freeze Memorial Lobby. Happy summer, everyone. Have a good night. Motion to adjourn.